I just watched David Haye's final public workout ahead of his rematch with Tony Bellew on Saturday. And I'm going to give you my thoughts. He clearly looks a hell of a lot lighter than he was for the first fight. For the first fight, he weighed over 220 pounds, close to 16 stone. For this fight, I'm expecting him to come in around 210 pounds, so closer to 15 stone. The weight that he's lost has given him a lot more mobility from what I saw at the public workout. I've seen mainly negative comments, at least in my boxing group on Facebook, Hatman Boxing, with regards to how David Haye looked on the pads in his public workout. They're saying, he looks awkward, he looks slow, this, that, and the other. Look, David Haye is not in his prime anymore. He's never going to be able to recapture his prime. So I'm not telling you that he looked as good as the old Haymaker in this workout. He didn't. But what he did 100% look to me is much lighter on his feet this time around than he did for the first Tony Bellew fight. And I'll leave a link in the description below, or two links to the public workouts for today's public workout, and I'll leave a link to the public workout that he had prior to the first Bellew fight. Go and watch those and compare how light David Haye looks on his feet now compared to how he was then. What I will say is, prior to the first Tony Bellew fight, his punches looked far more explosive, and he was throwing his right hand a lot straighter. In this public workout, his punches were not as explosive, and he was throwing his right hand in quite an awkward fashion. And I believe this is to avoid re-injuring his bicep. You may remember that this rematch was originally scheduled to happen at the end of last year, but Haye had to pull out because he injured his right bicep. And so that is why he's not fully extending that right hand, and he's kind of throwing it in an arcing overarm type fashion to avoid fully extending and possibly re-injuring the bicep. I believe that's why he's doing that. Now, in my prediction video, I laid out a strategy which I think David Haye should employ. I think it will be the best thing for him to do. And not only do I think he should employ that strategy, I think he probably will. And the strategy that I talked about in my prediction video was David Haye keeping the fight at long range, using his reach advantage, not getting involved, and forcing Tony Bellew to come to him and hopefully walking Bellew onto something. That is the strategy I think he should use, and that is the strategy I think he's going to use. Why do I say this? Well, because in the first fight, he was being countered when he was attacking Tony Bellew. When they were in the center of the ring and David Haye was jabbing and at long range for certain periods, Tony Bellew wasn't really throwing much and he wasn't really landing much. It's when David Haye dived in with punches on the front foot, that is when Bellew was able to catch him. And I'm talking about prior to the injury. Yeah? So Haye and his team should, and I'm sure have, looked at that and said, well, we need to take away Bellew's opportunities to counter. He's got much shorter arms than David Haye. Haye knows that. Salas knows that. They know Bellew is the much shorter armed guy. So why play into his hands by lunging forward and putting yourself within Tony Bellew's punching range? Why do that? I don't think Haye is going to do that this time. I think him and Salas is a very smart man. They know that that gives Tony Bellew opportunities to counter. So I think David Haye is going to keep it long. And what I saw at today's public workout convinces me of this even more. He's going to keep it long. He's going to use his jab more than normal. He's not going to try and force the fight. He's going to try and get Bellew to come to him. This is how Adonis Stevenson beat Tony Bellew. And Adonis Stevenson is a shorter man than Tony Bellew. He just had longer arms. And in that fight, Bellew didn't even change his strategy when he was getting outboxed at long range by Stevenson. He just continued on the back foot and didn't even try to come forward. Because I've seen some people say, well, if David Haye boxes on the back foot, Bellew will just walk him down. He might, but if you look at Bellew's previous form against big punchers especially, he doesn't tend to try and walk them down. He didn't try walk Adonis Stevenson down, and he was getting outboxed in that fight. He continued on the back foot, and that just gave Adonis Stevenson the opportunity to take his time and set up the perfect punch. So, yeah, I think David Haye's going to keep it long. And crucially, I should leave a third link to this, actually. It was on the Sky Sports live stream of the public workouts. David Haye did an interview with Sky Sports, and in the interview, he pretty much revealed for the first time what he plans to do. And I don't think that this particular revelation is a smokescreen. I think he was literally telling you now, because we're so close to the fight, he was literally telling you what he's going to do. He said that he's planning for this fight to go as many rounds as possible. That's what he said. He said he's planning for this fight to go long. He said, past 6 rounds, I'm planning for it to go as many rounds as possible. That, to me, shows what he's thinking. He's got to keep it long, use the reach advantage, force Bellew to come forward and walk him onto something. Yeah, I think that's the best strategy for David Haye to employ. I think, and he's done this before, you know, he did it to Nikolai Valuev, he did it to John Ruiz even. John Ruiz was coming forward, Bellew was on the back foot. He did it against Derek Chisora, he did it against even Vladimir Klitschko, although it didn't work against Klitschko. Those are the tactics he employed. Back foot, low volume, moving around. Now, there's another advantage. It's not just from a tactical thing for David Haye in terms of, you know, the best way to fight Tony Bellew. The best strategy for him to use is not only the strategy that allows him to use his reach advantage and not make too many mistakes, not give Bellew too many opportunities to counter. The best strategy is also the strategy which puts the least stress on David Haye's injury-ridden body. And an aggressive fight, if David Haye was to be aggressive and throw a lot of power shots and all that kind of stuff, that puts more strain on his body. If he fights a back foot fight where he's low volume, he's using his jab, he's basically waiting for Bellew to come in so he can counter him, that puts less stress on his body. You see what I'm saying? So it's, for me, I think the back foot long range strategy is best for him tactically, and it's also best for him in terms of not getting injured again in this fight. So that's what I think he's going to do. Whether that strategy will be good enough to beat Tony Bellew remains to be seen. But I do think that's his best shot at winning. And I think that's what he will do. And as I said in my prediction video, I think it will be enough to beat Bellew. And the fact that he's come out in this Sky interview and said he's looking for this fight to go as many rounds as possible, to me, that's just code for saying I'm looking to win this fight on points. And that is why I'm sticking with my prediction of David Haye to defeat Tony Bellew on points. You know, if one thing I will say is if David Haye gets caught by Tony Bellew, he will, well, if he gets caught or if he catches Tony Bellew with anything big, he'll probably find it very difficult to hold back and stay on his game plan. Yeah, because David Haye is a fighter and obviously he's a boxer, but I'm saying in his heart, this is a man who is a fighter. Do you understand what I'm saying? This guy's not a punk. He's not a coward or anything like that. When he's in the ring, he is a fighter. And you look at the Nikolai Valuev fight, he was boxing on the back foot for 12 rounds. In the 12th round, when he finally caught Valuev with something that rocked him, David Haye tried to throw the kitchen sink at the guy. So if that happens against Bellew and he manages to land a big shot, even if it's early, I do expect him to go in all guns blazing. And that is potentially where he could come unstuck. That is potentially where he could injure himself. If he goes forward attacking Bellew because he's wobbled him, he might actually shoot himself in the foot, metaphorically speaking. So I think if Salas has any influence over David Haye, any serious influence, he needs to tell David Haye, even if you hurt him, be careful about your next move. Don't just go flying in. Be careful. He's going to need to have a Klitschko, a Vladimir Klitschko type mentality in this fight, where he stays calm at all times. Even if you hurt the guy, he may still be fresh. He may still have enough about him to catch you coming in with something. So be careful. That is what Salas should be telling him. Even if you hurt the guy, break him down first, if possible. If you're going for a knockout, make sure you've broken him down sufficiently first, landed plenty of jabs, plenty of stuff from long range, busted him up. Then when he's completely disarmed, if you want to go for the finish, that's when you can do it. But the priority for David Haye should be to win this fight on points. Basically, win every round by boxing, by keeping it long, using that reach advantage. I think a lot of people who are skeptical of David Haye are underestimating the reach advantage David Haye has over Tony Bellew. You go watch that first fight again. The first couple rounds, David Haye comes out, makes loads of mistakes, misses a lot, but then he settles down into his boxing, and you watch at long range, Bellew is not doing much. And he can't do much because his arms are so much shorter. That's where David Haye has the advantage. Yeah? And once again, to clarify it for everybody, David Haye is nowhere near his prime. He looks far lighter on his feet this time, but nothing anywhere close to what a prime David Haye used to look like. But I don't think he needs to be a prime David Haye to win this fight. I think he just needs to be maybe 10, 15% better than last time physically and employ a different strategy. That's it. So those are my impressions of David Haye at the public workout. Still sticking with my prediction of David Haye on points. Let me know how you felt about David Haye in the comment section below. And I'll also be doing a reaction to Tony Bellew's public workout, so stay tuned for that. All right? It's happening. I'm out.